August 14th, 1944, 19,000 feet over the Ruhr. The Lancaster shudders as if something alive is clawing at its wings. Engines roar at full power. The cockpit rattles. The bomb aimer whispers he has visual on the target. Below them is a fortress of concrete Germany believes cannot be touched. 20 feet thick walls, roofs that swallowed every ordinary bomb the Allies ever dropped. Tonight the crew knows they are carrying something different, something no one on this plane has seen detonate in combat. The intercom crackles. Stand by. A sudden jolt. The bomb doors yaw open, cold air slams into the bay. A blast of wind tears at the fuselage. The pilot holds the Lancaster's steady jaw, clenched sweat on his gloves. The flight engineer counts the seconds in his head. They all know the rule: if the aircraft wobbles even a hair, the bomb will miss by hundreds of feet. And if it misses, men on the ground will live to fight another year. The bombardier leans into his sight. His voice is sharp-clipped. Left, left, steady, bomb away. And then it drops. 12,000 pounds of forged steel falling into darkness. No fins fluttering, no wobble. Just a long, smooth, terrifying descent. The crew cannot see it, but they can feel it. Leave the aircraft a sudden lightness, a lurch upward as if the plane gasps for air. The bomb accelerates past 600 miles an hour, then 700, past the speed where air becomes a wall, falling faster than any weapon the RAF has ever released. The men breathe in uneven bursts. No one speaks. Far below, in a German bunker, built to outlast eternity, a technician looks up. He hears nothing. That is the first warning. Then a vibration, subtle at first, like someone knocking beneath the earth. Another man shouts over the hum of generators, asking if artillery has landed nearby. A lieutenant shakes his head. Artillery cannot reach this deep. And then the world moves. The floor ripples. Dust sifts from the ceiling in long gray lines. Equipment jumps. Metal groans. Men grab at consoles, at walls, at anything fixed as the ground heaves upward in a silent wave. There is no explosion they can hear. Only a pressure that forces the breath from their lungs, followed by a low rolling roar coming from everywhere at once. Up above, the Lancaster banks hard. The flight engineer mutters that he felt the shock through the airframe even at this altitude. The pilot does not answer. He keeps climbing. Climb, climb, climb. They all know what Tallboy was meant to do, but none of them know if it truly worked. They cannot imagine the crater now forming under their wings, or the cracks spidering through concrete that was supposed to live longer than Hitler's Reich. Here is what stays with me when I revisit the records. The silence. The idea that almost no one heard the bomb's impact, yet everyone felt it. A weapon that did not blast a target apart, but unmade the ground beneath it. And the question that nags me is why this moment mattered so much to the men designing the war. What happens when a bomb can strike with sniper precision from a height where no defender can touch the plane delivering it? London, early 1941. While air raid sirens still echo through the city, and the Thames reflects fires burning from the night before one man sits alone at a drafting table covered in paper, weighed down by coffee mugs and metal rulers. Barnes Wallis does not look like a man designing a weapon. He looks like an exhausted civil engineer who has not slept properly in weeks. His jacket hangs loose. His tie is undone. Outside his window, the war feels loud and chaotic. Inside his office, everything is quiet, precise, controlled. Lines, angles, curves, calculations written, crossed out, written again. Wallis is not thinking about explosions. He is thinking about soil density, shock waves, and how energy travels through the earth. The problem confronting Britain is brutally simple. German industry is hiding, not behind armies, but behind concrete. Submarine pens on the French coast, aircraft factories buried into hillsides, weapons facilities tunneled into rock. Bomber Command can reach them, but it cannot break them. Conventional bombs detonate on the surface. They shatter windows, scar roofs, kill people nearby, but the structures remain. The Germans repair, rebuild, and keep producing. To Wallis, this is not a bombing problem, it is a physics problem. He begins with an idea that sounds almost naive. Do not try to smash the building. Make the ground beneath it fail. Instead of exploding, outward force energy downward. Let the earth itself become the weapon. He sketches a long, narrow bomb heavier than anything the Royal Air Force has ever considered carrying. It must fall fast, so fast that air resistance cannot slow it. It must strike the ground intact, not shatter on impact. Only then can it burrow deep enough to release its energy where concrete is weakest from below. When Wallis first presents this concept to officials, the response is polite disbelief. A bomb that weighs more than many aircraft payload limits. A weapon that demands extraordinary accuracy from high altitude. A design that requires metallurgy Britain is not even sure it can produce during wartime. One officer reportedly asks him if he is proposing science or fiction. Wallis does not argue. He listens. He nods. Then he returns to his desk and keeps working. What few people around him realize is that Wallis has already run the numbers. He calculates terminal velocity, penetration depth, soil compression. He knows how fast the bomb must fall, how dense the casing must be, how much explosive is required once it reaches depth. He knows that the bomb will not behave like a blast, but like a hammer, striking the planet itself. The mathematics tell him something astonishing. If this works, a single bomb could do the work of dozens, not through fire, but through force. According to documents he studies late at night, German engineers believe their fortifications are immune because nothing can reach them. Wallis reads those assumptions and quietly builds his design around them. The deeper the bunker, the more vulnerable it becomes. The thicker the concrete, the more energy it traps when the ground moves beneath it. This inversion fascinates him. Strength becomes weakness. Protection becomes confinement. There is resistance everywhere. Aircraft designers warn that no bomber can carry such a weapon without major modification. Production planners warn that forging a casing this thick risks cracks and failure. Military planners worry about accuracy. Miss by a few hundred feet and the effect vanishes. Wallis absorbs all of it. He does not raise his voice. He does not dramatize the war. He keeps returning to the same point. The fastest way to shorten this conflict is not more bombs, but the right bomb. When the government finally authorizes limited development, it is not out of confidence, but desperation. Britain has tried nearly everything else. Wallis is given permission to proceed, though few expect success. What they do not see is that he is not chasing power. He is chasing inevitability. If the physics are correct, the result cannot be avoided. Looking back at these moments, what strikes me is not how radical the idea was, but how lonely it must have felt. To believe that you can end fortified war by shaking the ground itself while surrounded by people who see only targets and tonnage. And this leads to the next question, the one Wallis himself cannot escape. If the theory is sound, can industry actually build it? Can Britain turn equations into steel before the war outruns them? The first real tests do not happen in laboratories or polished proving grounds. They happen in open countryside, far from cities where mistakes will not kill civilians. Late 1942 engineers haul oddly shaped steel bodies into empty fields and abandoned quarries, watched by small groups of men who know this experiment could end careers. Wallis stands off to one side, notebook tucked under his arm, eyes fixed not on the bomb itself, but on the ground beneath it. He is less interested in the explosion than in what the Earth will do afterward. Early drops are unsettling. Smaller prototypes fall cleanly, strike the soil, and vanish before detonating. Seconds later, the ground bulges, lifts, and settles again, like a breath exhaled by the planet. Instruments jump, survey stakes tilt. One observer later writes that it felt wrong, as if the land itself had been wounded. This is what Wallis wanted to see, not fire, movement. Then come the failures. A casing cracks on impact, spilling explosive energy too early. The blast throws dirt outward instead of downward. Wallis watches silently as engineers argue over metallurgy and heat treatment. The steel must be strong enough to survive impact at over 700 miles an hour, yet not so brittle that it shatters. Britain's foundries have never attempted anything like this. Several firms refuse outright, saying their presses cannot handle such thickness. Others try fail and quietly withdraw. Time is not a neutral observer. While these tests continue, German construction accelerates. U-boat pens expand along the Atlantic coast. New reinforced roofs are poured thicker than before. Intelligence reports show concrete layers exceeding 20 feet. Each update tightens the noose. Wallis reads these reports and makes a decision that startles even his supporters. The bomb must be heavier, longer, faster. The solution to stronger defenses is not moderation but escalation. The design grows to over 20 feet in length. The casing thickens. Weight climbs toward 12,000 pounds. Aircraft engineers stare at the figures and shake their heads. No operational bomber has ever carried such a load internally. Wallis knows this. He is not designing around the airplane. He is forcing the airplane to adapt. In his calculations, the bomb comes first. One test nearly ends the program. A full-scale casing impacts at speed and buries itself deep into compacted soil. The delay fuse fails. There is no explosion. Hours pass. The site is evacuated. Engineers debate whether the bomb is inert or merely sleeping. Eventually, demolition teams approach nerves-tight tools, shaking in gloved hands. When they expose the casing, they find it intact, nose-buried body perfectly aligned. It has done exactly what Wallis predicted. It has just not finished the job. This moment changes the tone of the program. Skepticism shifts into caution, then into something like respect. The problem is no longer whether the bomb can penetrate. It is how to make it explode at precisely the right depth, not too shallow, not too deep. Fuse specialists work in isolation, experimenting with delayed detonation, measured not in seconds, but in fractions of a second. Too fast, and the energy escapes upward. Too slow, and the Earth absorbs it without transmitting the shock. Throughout this phase, Wallis remains almost detached. According to colleagues, he rarely celebrates small successes and barely reacts to setbacks. His focus is relentless. He is not chasing a dramatic explosion. He is chasing repeatability. A weapon that works once is interesting. A weapon that works every time is transformative. By late 1943, the data aligns. Drop angles stabilize. Penetration depths become predictable. Seismographs record the same signature again and again, a sharp downward spike followed by a rolling wave that travels through bedrock. One engineer notes that nearby structures crack even when they are not directly struck. That observation makes its way into briefing papers marked urgent. Still, one final barrier remains. The bomb exists on paper and in controlled tests, but it has never been carried into hostile airspace. No one knows how it will behave when released under fire through the turbulence, with a crew fighting to keep an aircraft level at high altitude. Wallis understands this risk better than anyone. His entire concept depends on accuracy. Miss the target by a few hundred feet, and the effect collapses. When authorization finally comes to move the weapon toward operational use, it is accompanied by quiet warnings. If this fails in combat, it will not get another chance. There will be no time to refine it, no margin for error. And that leads directly to the next problem, one that keeps RAF commanders awake at night. How do you deliver a 12,000-pound bomb with surgical precision while enemy fighters and flak tear at your aircraft? The only aircraft even remotely capable of carrying what Wallis has created is the Avro Lancaster, and even that is a compromise bordering on desperation. Late 1943, inside hangars, lit by bare bulbs, engineers stare at the bomb and then at the bomber remeasuring, knowing something has to give. The Lancaster was designed for volume, not singular mass. Tallboy is too long for the bomb bay, too heavy for standard mounts, too unforgiving of imbalance. To make this work, the aircraft itself must be changed. Bomb bay doors are removed entirely, not modified, removed. The weapon will hang exposed to the slipstream, a long steel spine beneath the fuselage, altering drag, altering handling, altering everything the pilots think they know about their aircraft. Reinforcement plates are added. Mounting points are rebuilt. Weight distribution is recalculated until margins disappear. On paper, it flies. In the air, no one is certain. The first crews selected are not volunteers in the romantic sense. They are chosen because they can fly level longer than anyone else. Precision matters more than bravery. Tallboy does not forgive corrections made too late. At altitude at night under fire, the aircraft must be held steady for long seconds that feel endless. A fraction of a degree off a slight yaw, and the bomb will miss by hundreds of feet. All that effort, all that steel, all that theory wasted. Training flights begin over the sea. No flak, no fighters, just cold air and silence. Crews learn the new feel of the Lancaster, the sluggish response, the strange lift change when the bomb is released. Some pilots describe it as flying with a building strapped to the belly. Others say the aircraft feels nervous, like it wants to wander if you stop paying attention for even a moment. One navigator writes that the tension during the release run is worse than any enemy encounter. At least flak is external. This pressure comes from inside the cockpit. The bomb aimer's role becomes critical. He is no longer simply placing a marker within a broad target area. He is aligning a single strike against a specific point. Bridges, bunkers, pens. The sighting process is slowed deliberately, no rushing. The aircraft stabilizes. Power settings are locked. Trim is adjusted and then left alone. The crew knows that once the run begins, there is no room for improvisation. There are moments of near disaster even in training. On one flight, turbulence rolls the Lancaster just as the bomb doors are opened. The pilot aborts at the last second, heart pounding, knowing that if the bomb had been released unevenly, it could have damaged the aircraft, or worse. Another crew reports severe vibration as airflow strikes the exposed casing. Engineers add fairings, shave edges. Adjust surfaces, chasing stability one small change at a time. What strikes me when I read these reports is how much of this process feels like trust. Trust in calculations, trust in modified airframes, trust between men who know that if one of them loses focus, everyone pays for it. There is no redundancy here, no second chance. Tallboy demands perfection from people who are already exhausted. As operations approach, secrecy tightens. Crews are briefed in small rooms, maps rolled out, targets discussed in hushed tones. They are told what the bomb can do, but not shown footage. The effect is described clinically: ground shock, structural failure. They listen, nodding, trying to translate theory into something they can carry into the night sky. One pilot asks what happens if they miss. The answer is simple. Another mission will be required if the aircraft survive to fly it. When the first operational sorties are scheduled, weather becomes an enemy equal to the Luftwaffe. Clouds interfere with visual aiming, winds aloft threaten drift. Commanders delay launches, then delay again, knowing that forcing a Tallboy drop under poor conditions is worse than not dropping at all. Each postponement increases pressure. Germany continues to build. The clock keeps moving. By the time the order finally comes to proceed, the crews understand something clearly. This mission is not about volume or attrition, it is about demonstration. If Tallboy works under combat conditions, it changes what targets mean. If it fails, the war continues along familiar grinding lines. The Lancaster lifts into the dark carrying not just a bomb, but an argument about how wars can be fought. And that leads directly to the moment everything pivots, the first real target, the first release over enemy territory, the point where theory, steel, and human nerve finally meet. The first operational target is chosen with care not for symbolism, but for proof. Early June 1944, the submarine pens at Brest. Massive reinforced concrete, poured in layers thicker than anything Allied bombers have faced before. Roof slabs designed to shrug off direct hits walls, meant to stand, even if the city around them collapses. German engineers are confident. They have watched years of bombing do little more than scar the surface. This place they believe will survive the war. The Lancaster crews do not share that confidence, but they understand the stakes. Shortly after 4:30 in the morning, engines warming on a rain-darkened runway, the air smells of fuel and cold metal. There is no cheering, no speeches, just checklists and quiet voices. The bomb hangs beneath the fuselage, dull and immense, a presence everyone is aware of, even when no one looks directly at it. One pilot later writes that it felt like carrying a verdict, not a weapon. As the aircraft crosses the French coast, flak begins almost immediately. Black bursts climbing toward them, spaced closer than during ordinary raids. The Germans have learned to recognize these specialized flights. They know something important is coming, even if they do not know exactly what. The Lancaster holds altitude steady, deliberate. At 19,000 feet, the pilot levels out, fighting the instinct to weave. This is the most dangerous moment, straight and predictable in hostile airspace. The bomb aimer calls adjustments slow and precise. Wind drift calculated, corrected. The target fills the sight, a block of concrete geometry against the coastline. He waits longer than feels comfortable. He wants certainty, not approximation. The pilot's hands ache from holding the aircraft so still. Seconds stretch. Flak bursts rock. The air nearby. Sharp thumps felt through the frame. No one speaks unless necessary. Then the call comes. Bomb away. The release is clean. The Lancaster jumps upward, suddenly lighter, almost eager. The pilot banks hard, pushing the aircraft into a climbing turn as fast as the weight allows. Behind them, the bomb falls alone. A narrow steel shape accelerating toward the earth. It passes through cloud, through mist, through the last thin layers of air resistance, gaining speed until nothing can slow it. On the ground, German personnel feel it before they see it. A deep vibration, not sharp, not loud, just wrong. Instruments tremble. A low officer steps out of a doorway, confused, scanning the sky for explosions that do not come. Then the ground convulses. Concrete cracks, not at the surface, but from within. The roof flexes. Supports shudder. Somewhere below, buried beneath layers of reinforced concrete, the bomb detonates. The effect is not a blast, it is a heave. The earth lifts and drops. Walls split along stress lines no one knew existed. Sections of roof sag, then collapse inward, crushing machinery and men alike. Inside the pens, the pressure wave travels through concrete like a fist through water. Doors jam, lights go out, dust fills lungs. Survivors later described the sensation as being inside a structure that suddenly forgot how to stand. Above, the Lancaster crew feels a distant tremor through the airframe, a faint echo carried upward. They do not cheer. They do not know yet what they have done. They fly home on instinct, on training, on the simple desire to land. Only later, when reconnaissance photographs arrive, does the truth become clear. The pens are no longer intact, not destroyed in the conventional sense, but compromised, fractured, unsafe. Repairs would take months, perhaps longer, time Germany does not have. Reports filter in from German engineers. Confusion dominates. Their designs accounted for blast, for penetration, for repeated surface impacts. They did not account for the ground itself becoming hostile. One assessment notes that the structural failure appears to originate below the foundations. Another uses a phrase that appears again and again in intercepted communications: earthquake effect. Looking at these documents now, what stands out is how quickly certainty evaporates. A single strike has turned a fortress into a liability. Crews who once felt protected now refuse to work inside the damaged structures. Commanders request new designs, thicker concrete, deeper foundations. But the logic has inverted. The deeper they build, the more vulnerable they become. This is the moment Tallboy stops being a concept and becomes a threat that reshapes planning on both sides. For the Allies, it opens targets once written off as indestructible. For Germany, it introduces a fear that cannot be mitigated by more concrete or more labor. You cannot harden the planet, and yet this was only the beginning. Brest proves the idea, it does not reveal its full potential. There is a larger target waiting, one that has haunted Allied planners for years, a steel giant hiding in northern waters, tying down fleets and shaping strategy without firing a shot. The weapon has shown what it can do to concrete. The next question is whether it can break something even more imposing. For years, Tirpitz has been a ghost that shapes the war without moving. Launched in February 1941, sister ship to Bismarck, 52,000 tons of steel hidden in Norwegian fjords, she forces the Royal Navy to plan around her shadow. Convoys to the Soviet Union reroute. Battleships are tied down. Aircraft carriers wait on standby. Tirpitz does not need to sail to be dangerous. Her existence is enough. Every attempt to destroy her has failed or only wounded her. Midget submarines cripple her once but do not kill her. Air attacks score hits but cannot finish the job. Armor repairs, smokescreens, mountains, weather, and distance keep her alive. By 1944, Allied planners understand a hard truth. As long as Tirpitz floats, she controls strategy far beyond her anchorage. This is why Tallboy is brought north. November 12, 1944, just after 9:30 a.m. The sky over Tromsø is pale and brittle with cold. 32 Lancaster bombers approach at altitude, engines steady, crews silent. They have flown for hours over sea and mountains, knowing this mission is different. There is no city below, no factory complex, no wide target area. There is only one ship moored and camouflaged, surrounded by hills and anti-aircraft fire. The run-in is brutal. German gunners open up early. Flak bursts climb toward the formation, sharp black flowers hanging in the thin air. The Lancasters hold course. They must. Precision matters more here than anywhere else. The bomb aimers track the ship as it grows in their sights, long, angular, deceptively still. Tirpitz cannot maneuver. She is anchored. That is both her strength and her sentence. The first Tallboy is released, then another. Each Lancaster lightens suddenly, noses lifting as pilots push into evasive climbs. Below, the bombs fall cleanly, accelerating through cold air. guided only by gravity and physics. One misses striking nearby and detonating beneath the water, sending a massive column skyward. The shock rattles the hull. Men aboard Tirpitz feel the deck tremble. They know this sensation. They have felt near misses before. This time it is different. Another Tallboy strikes close enough to deform the seabed beneath the ship. The water itself seems to punch upward. Hull plates flex, rivets scream. Then one bomb hits exactly where Wallis's mathematics predicted it must. It penetrates past armor, past decks, deep beneath the ship before detonating. The explosion does not tear Tirpitz apart in fire. It lifts her. 52,000 tons rise, hesitate, and then settle back wrong. Inside the ship, chaos erupts. Bulkheads buckle, turrets jam, power fails. Men are thrown against steel walls. Compartments flood unevenly, creating a fatal list. Within minutes, the angle increases beyond recovery. Tirpitz begins to capsize, slow at first, then faster, inexorable. Some crew manage to escape onto the deck. Others are trapped below as the ship rolls. Observers on shore watch in stunned silence. A weapon that no gun could stop has been undone not by naval fire, but by an idea dropped from the sky. At approximately 10:15 a.m., Tirpitz turns over completely. The hull breaks the surface red and raw. Smoke drifts. The water closes over what remains. More than 1,000 German sailors die in the wreck. Above, the Lancaster crews see the result from altitude. They do not cheer. According to post-mission accounts, there is a moment of stillness, almost disbelief. Years of planning fear and restraint collapse into a single image of a capsized battleship. One pilot writes that it felt less like victory and more like a chapter closing. Strategically, the effect is immediate. The Royal Navy releases ships previously held back. Arctic convoys face less threat. German naval power in the north effectively ends in a morning. A ship that had tied down disproportionate resources is gone not after a fleet action, but after a few precise drops. When I study this event, what stands out is how asymmetric it is. Tirpitz represents traditional power, armor guns, displacement prestige. Tallboy represents something else entirely. It does not challenge strength directly. It bypasses it. It attacks assumptions. It makes the environment hostile rather than the target. In that sense, Tirpitz was never defeated by a bomb. She was defeated by a change in how war was thought about. There is a temptation to frame this as inevitability, as if the outcome was always certain once Tallboy existed. It was not. Weather could have intervened. Accuracy could have failed. German defenses could have disrupted the run. The margin was thin, but when it worked absolutely. And yet even this was not the end of the story. Tallboy had proven itself against concrete and steel, against land and sea, but its existence pointed towards something even larger, even more unsettling. If 12,000 pounds could do this, what would happen if Britain built something heavier still? By the time the war in Europe draws toward its final months, Tallboy is no longer a secret whispered in briefing rooms. It is a fact the Germans plan around and fear. Each bomb costs roughly $200,000. In 1944 money, a staggering sum, when factories are starving for steel and aircraft are being lost every night. Yet Allied planners keep authorizing its use because the arithmetic of war has changed. One precise strike can remove a target that would otherwise absorb hundreds of sorties and thousands of lives. What Tallboy proves is not simply that bigger bombs exist. It proves that destruction does not scale linearly. A conventional bomb spreads energy outward, losing force with distance. Tallboy concentrates energy inward, letting physics do the work. Speed replaces quantity. Depth replaces surface damage. It is not the loudest weapon of the war, but it may be the most intellectually disruptive. After it appears, no bunker can be considered safe just because it is buried deeper. Barnes Wallis watches this transformation with mixed emotion. His work has succeeded beyond expectations, yet the cost is visible in reconnaissance photos and casualty reports. He understands perhaps better than anyone that he has helped invent a category of weapon rather than a single device. Soon after Tallboy proves itself, its larger successor follows. Grand Slam, 22,000 pounds, the largest conventional bomb used in the war, designed on the same principles: fall faster, penetrate deeper, shake the ground harder. Entire viaducts collapse, railway tunnels cave in, mountainsides slide. What is striking reading Wallis's later correspondence is how little triumph appears in his words. He frames his success not as victory, but as efficiency. Fewer missions, fewer nights over flak, fewer crews lost trying to smash targets that refused to break. From his perspective, Tallboy is not an escalation. It is a shortcut through the bloodiest part of industrial war. The legacy extends far beyond 1945. Modern bunker-busting weapons trace their lineage directly back to these designs: hardened steel casings, delayed fuses, penetration before detonation. Even today, when militaries talk about deeply buried targets, the logic is the same. Do not fight the surface, undermine it. The language has changed, the mathematics have not. There is also a quieter legacy, one that rarely appears in official histories. Tallboy exposes a truth about warfare that many commanders resist. That superiority does not always belong to the side with more men, more tanks, or more bombs. Sometimes it belongs to the side willing to rethink first principles. Germany built thicker concrete. Britain asked whether concrete mattered at all. One approach required endless labor. The other required a single insight and the courage to pursue it. If I step back and consider what Tallboy represents, I am struck by how impersonal it is, and how deeply human it remains. The bomb itself is cold steel and explosive, but its existence is the result of fatigue, frustration, and a desire to end something that had consumed millions of lives. It is born not from hatred, but from impatience with stalemate. That does not make it benign. It makes it honest. There is an uncomfortable question embedded in this story. If a single idea can collapse fortresses and sink giants, what does that say about the stability of any system built on assumed strength? Tallboy did not just destroy targets, it destroyed confidence. Once that confidence was gone, the war's end accelerated. Today, unexploded Tallboys are still found buried in soil and seabeds, dormant reminders of how close the ground itself came to becoming a battlefield everywhere. When they are uncovered, entire cities evacuate. The war reaches forward through time, forcing people decades later to stop, wait, and remember what was buried beneath their feet. In the end, the story of Tallboy is not about a bomb hitting a window from 20,000 feet. It is about a shift in thinking so sharp that it rewrote the relationship between engineering and warfare. A reminder that the most powerful weapons are often conceived in silence on paper by people who ask a question no one else is willing to ask.